I suppose my task today is to warm you up to the possibility that there is a future that it might involve using technology in a slightly different way than perhaps we've used technology in the past in retail, and also to demystify a little bit about this AI thing. All right. I've chosen not to really use the term AI in anything that you're about to see, and I've used a deeply Americanism and called what I'm about to talk about smart. Smart for me is actually dressing well, not this, but it's a term that it's kind of stuck since I took a wrong turn in my career and went and worked for IBM for a few years. Kieran did the same, didn't he? Yeah. And you'll note I inject humour throughout because it's not that serious what we do, but actually it really is. So I've worked in and around the retail industry for 20 odd years of the 30 odd years I've been working, and I do so because it's probably encapsulates what I love about the world. It's a people-centric business, right? It's all about people. There are 3.5 million people in the UK work directly in it, in retail and hospitality. When you add up the people that work behind the scenes and in the companies that serve the retail industry, we're up into 6 to 7 million people. There are only 20 odd million people that work in the UK. The rest are too old to work or too young to work. And arguably, even within that 20 odd million, there are quite a few that don't really do much. But definitely in retail, and they're called bankers. Sorry for any in the room, I know there aren't. But the point of retail is that we are, and to your point, Erica, it's all about connections. It's about creating connections between people and product. Ultimately, it's about fostering the relationships that we have between parts of this ecosystem. But we're in a bit of a pickle, and we're always in a bit of a pickle. The industry that we work in, that we serve in, that we supply to, is always in a bit of a pickle. And it's not surprising because we are a bellwether for the economy, not just the local, but the global economy. We pull stuff in from all over the world, and we try and channel it cost efficiently and effectively to make a profit by the time we put it into the hands of individuals. We're exposed, therefore, to a vast number of different economic factors. Factors that relate to the cost of product, the cost of labour, the cost of space on ships, in containers, in warehouses, in stores, all of the big costs of this industry are in a constant state of flux. And so when something happens, by the way, Helen is a professional friend of mine. I work with her a lot, so I feel like I'm entitled to take the piss out of her. Helen manages to spin bad news really well. You know her too, Maya. She's a consummate professional. She's a politician. But how can that was her headline in the last report. Better news. Better news is that inflation is running just shy of 12%. That's better news. All right? That's an amazing escalation in prices, all right, for consumers. And we serve in the middle as an industry between people that want to spend less and people that want to charge more. All right? You've got on one hand people that want to spend less and a whole bunch of people that want to charge more. Guess who's squeezed? It's our industry. Our industry is constantly under pressure from both sides. And so, yes, that's good news because it's less than it was the month before, but it's still not great. And the government isn't necessarily on our side as an industry. And yet I struggle to understand why. Because we're the second biggest employer. We as a contributor, retail and hospitality, employ more people than any other industry apart from the public sector. And I'll come talk to it in a minute, but we're not actually a very happy bunch right now. We're not very happy. There's a lot of pressure inside the industry about whether we even want to work in it anymore. So we've got lots of challenges to address, not least this one. We're also, and I'm going to use an emotive term here, an enemy to the environment. All right? We as an industry create a lot of stuff. And we try our best to move it from one side of the model to the other side of the model and extract profit from it. But the residual effect of what we do creates quite a lot of waste. Quite a lot of food waste, quite a lot of fashion waste. And we burn through energy at an alarming rate. And I don't often quote religious leaders because I don't necessarily have a religious bone in my body, but that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? That actually in the hands of us as consumers, but equally therefore in the hands of us as an industry, we have a problem. And we're both the solution to it and largely it. And so if we're holding the problem and we hold the solution, what a fantastic place to be. We're at least in control of our own ability to affect this. All right, so we have a responsibility as an industry. But when you place that in alongside the economic pressure and the inflationary challenge that we're all addressing, that's a massive challenge, all right? We need to address it, and only we can. But it sits alongside at a time of severe economic challenge for us. And then this. And then this. We as consumers have, for 15 years now, been gradually shifting the way we want to spend our time and spend our money. And in that combination of time and money, do so in very, very different ways. Building an ability to serve a highly dynamic behaviour which is shifting constantly through different channels, through different age groups, through different ways of engaging and interacting. That's an enormous overhead compared to having a shop where you send some stock and serve some customers. That was only 15 years ago when really retail commerce burst into our lives. And since then, in just that small amount of time, and by the way, the history of retail is thousands of years old, in that short period of time, we've had to adapt and adjust to these shifting dynamics of how we're engaging and serving customers. That's a massive overhead alongside our ability to address our environmental responsibilities in the context of a huge economic challenge. Those are the three big things that, for me, we're all sitting with as an industry. And I do believe that technology can play a significant part in helping us address those. Not just specific technologies, but a mindset that relates to how we apply technology. And so I'm going to talk a few examples of where we might focus our attention. I'm not going to talk about specific technology, so we can get into the detail if you want later. And I'm really pleased to do that. But one thing that you'll see features throughout what Kevin's talked about, what I'm talking about, is connections. How we create connections and how we use those connections to really liberate ourselves from some of the challenges that we're trying to address. Collaboration, connection, technology, they go hand in hand. But is it the answer? Well, look, I think there are 4 reasons, and they all come down to people. 4 reasons that you might want to look at and potentially select and apply smart technologies. I'm not going to talk about what a smart technology is. All technology is smart as far as I'm concerned. It uses a level of intelligence. It's either baked in because we've taken and extracted the knowledge and experience of people and codified it in an algorithm and it becomes smart. or it's artificial in its intelligence, and we've taught it how to, guess what, interpret the actions, behaviours and insights from a large data set that was generated through the actions and insights of people, and we've enshrined it in an ability to learn. I'm not going to talk about the detail of AI. All right? I could, but I'm not going to. I used to call this cognitive, but actually cognitive isn't the right word either. So smart's good enough for now. These are really the things that I think about when I talk about and choose to use technologies. Are your people spending too much time on boring, repetitive stuff that's adding little or no value, but is an essential ingredient to your business? Probably. Therefore, there are things that you might go and focus on over there that you can automate. Robotic process automation comes here. Do you need more people than last year? Simple question. Are you finding that as your business grows, you need to keep adding more people to do the jobs? Well, again, have a look at whether there's an opportunity to create a more efficient use of their time through smart technologies. It's all about people. Have you not got enough people to serve the needs of your customers? And think about it in the context of what I talked about. How do you take a position in the market, on social media and in stores, that liberates the knowledge of a few people in your organisation to serve customers? Really hard, unless you can assist them in scaling themselves. And if you're a store colleague and you've got a job to fill the shelves and clean the spills to avoid the trips and the insurance claims that result, if you're doing those things and you're not facing forward and focusing on serving customers, you're probably not doing the most value-adding part of the role. How do you get rid of some of that other stuff using technology so that colleagues, the human beings, the 3.5 million of us, can actually start having great conversations with customers to understand them a bit better? And that brings me to the last point. How do you scale up the knowledge and expertise of your organisation to become progressively investing in the potential of people? That's not about getting rid of people. That's about helping people to help other people inside your organisation. How do you make the highest performance the lowest performance and then keep raising the bar? By investing in people. Technology can help. But let me start by saying this is a really boring slide. This is where you might focus your time and attention when you're choosing to use smart technologies. You want to build through greater efficiency and effectiveness? Do you want to enhance governance through trust and control? Or do you want to grow? And all three of those things are always true in some part of your business. And I know some of you work in retail, some of you serve retail, and in the hospitality industry, it all rings true. All of those things all of the time, but you're going to have to make some choices. And so the next part is all about where. Because there is a potential through the use of smart technology to liberate masses of time and to apply that time to becoming a better business for your customers, for your colleagues and for your suppliers. And so if you were given that gift of time, where would you invest it? And my business is all about that. So I invest my time in helping realise time benefits for others. I invest my money as well. But the large part of my time is actually spent thinking about how to get time back. And so that time can be invested in improving the way that a business cooperates with its partners, realises the potential of its people, and connects better with its customers. And I'm just going to rattle through now an end-to-end view, starting at this is a retail, behind this there's a retail operating model, but it basically starts with how do we plan what to sell? Can we use technology to help us get better at creating products that are going to sell better, and so that we don't need to make so much of them because we're guessing? There's an awful lot of guesswork goes into retail. We hope a lot, we guess a lot, and sometimes we get it more right than we get it wrong, and we hope that we get it right more often than we get it wrong. Some of the technologies that I've seen at play here, and these are a couple of examples from IBM, and I said I had taken a career mistake by going there. Actually, I learned an awful lot. These are a set of applications of AI to product development. There are a couple here that were all about how do you gather vast amounts of insight about what might be fashionable. And so we ingested a load of data points from around various things. Who's selling what, who's talking about what are the social sentiment about colours, about styles, and how would we amalgamate all of that, put it in the hands of some big designers and assist them in developing product ranges. So smart technology can help us understand one of the fundamental things about retail. What are you going to like? Because we often don't know what you're going to like, and we try to get ahead by developing products and managing the market for demand. But actually, if we might go and find out what are the stimulants to that process, and how do we feed those stimulants into the process in an intelligent way? And then once we've done that, how do we help our customers find those things? One of the hardest things for us to do is make it possible for a customer to find things. If I walked into my merchandising team at House of Fraser, or arguably at John Lewis, there would be in the order of 400,000 to 500,000 things that we made available for sale at any point in time. If you're a customer faced with that bewildering choice, what can I do to help you narrow down the field of view so that we can become more effective in the dialogue between me as a provider of product and you as a customer with need? How can I really shift down to the detail and the detail and the detail that allows us to have a meaningful conversation about what you're trying to achieve, what the mission you're on? Well, if the mission is I'm trying to buy some pink boots, and I point my phone at some pink boots and I go, excellent, they sell the pink boots and I bought the pink boots, that's a great way of narrowing the field of view for the customer, narrowing the conversation to a specific mission, and being able to convey that mission not just in terms of a convincing experience, but actually a commercial experience. I can now convert that into a sale. But there are so many different ways in which we might be able to assist in reducing that conversation down to a meaningful, actionable one if we engage in some of these other ways. Who's had a go at asking Amazon to put something in the basket? Nobody. I don't believe you. Have you not made friends with Alexa yet? Really? Or Siri? Or Hey Google? Really? You've not made, go and try. I walked into my kitchen, must be a couple of years ago now, with a mate who's also a builder. And we were talking about batteries. And I said, just an example, to Alexa, buy me some AA batteries. Alexa bought me some AA, literally bought me some AA batteries. I talked to Alexa, we were in the kitchen. Guess whose batteries Alexa sold me? It wasn't Duracell, was it? It was Amazon's own brand batteries. But think about the possibilities of, the point here is about narrowing that field of view. We have a really important problem to solve for customers. We just don't know what it is. Right, as retailers, we sit here largely ignorant of the need that we're addressing until you tell us, or we ask, or we have a dialogue with you that talks about what it is you're trying. I have no idea why that person needed pink boots, but they did. And so if we have an opportunity to engage in understanding the need of, and therefore the mission, by narrowing the focus, by using some of these technologies, who's had a go at these two? Yeah, they're quite cool. I can't find out why to use them in a retail context yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying a lot, but they are quite cool. And actually, Bard is very, very clever. It's connected to the internet, where I haven't paid for ChatGPT before yet, even though it's only 20 quid a month. But it's quite cool, and it's pretty intelligent actually, and it starts to feel like a kind of dialogue that you can imagine putting into the hands of somebody in a retail organization to assist in understanding your customer needs. But these kind of technologies are context capturing. All right. Previously, they've not been. I've gone to a website and I've tried as a retailer to sort of guess what mission you're on. I've tried to understand where your dwell time is, what products you search for. I'm trying to build up a picture of what the need might be. These are much more likely to tell me what mission you're on. Yeah. But, at the end of the day, we sell stuff. The industry's here to sell stuff, and we're trying to maximize that. But should we be trying to maximize it? What we're trying to do is be as selective in both parties so that we can join together efficiently. My time, my money, your products, my needs. There are plenty of other technologies, though, that can help us understand that. There's an immediacy to retail. When it goes really right, it goes right. If it starts raining and the umbrellas are at the front of the shop, well, fantastic. Did you know it was going to start raining? Did you know that you had umbrellas in the back, in the stock room? Well, wouldn't it be great to get a sense of the immediacy of the opportunity for everyone involved if you started to understand really the context within which I'm trading? You know this is good retailing. You know that the guy that's got a bunch of raincoats out the back and it's raining gets them out. Just imagine trying to do that across a store estate of 1,500 multi-format supermarkets, convenience stores, city centres, out of towns. There are plenty of technologies that can help you understand what's going on in a way that will allow you to be much more precise about what you offer and when and where. But you've got to be able to. And so a lot of what I'm talking about also requires you to then connect it into your ability to execute into systems like Merit that manage the flow of inventory in and around your business. So you can have all the insight you want. You can invest all of the time and all of your tech budget in this kind of stuff. But if you can't actually connect it into the real flow of goods because you don't have the goods in the right place, you don't have an agile and flexible operating model for your business, they may be money wasted. Because, let me come to this one. There are three big costs that we need to consider. They all sit close to each other and depend upon each other. Stock, space, and labour. If you go down top to bottom in a typical retail report and accounts, you'll see them. They stand rather proud of all the other costs. The next one tends to be marketing, 50% of which we don't know generates a return, but we don't know which 50%, I'm told. I ran marketing for a while for a big retailer and went, well, that's interesting. We're spending 50 odd million a year on 13 different ways of spending, and you can't tell me which of those 13 is worth doing. Should we just stop it all? No, clearly not the right answer. Can we dial it up in certain parts? Don't know. We can try. But the big three, stock, space, and labour, all relate to each other. Just imagine how much it costs to run a supermarket. the lease costs, the energy costs, just in relation to the space, and then the stock cost of filling out with stuff. That stuff's going nowhere until somebody takes it off the shelf, puts it in a basket and buys it. Until then, it's a cost. Every bit of stock is a cost until it's a sale. And then it may still remain a cost if you've got your buy side economics wrong. And of course, you need lots of people, not necessarily just in shops, but in the end-to-end operation all the way back up your supply chain through your distribution centres. And so the three big costs have this interplay between them. Adjust one and you need to adjust the other. More stock, more space, more labour, less stock, less labour. How do you manage the interplay between those systematically is quite hard. But there are technologies that will help you understand how to optimise. But again, this is about connections. None of this works unless it's connected to other parts of the retail operating model. You've got to be able to effect change quickly once you become aware of the need to, and therefore your assets need to be configurable in a way that can react quickly to change. And then come to product. Once upon a time, I had a version of this presentation, and you've turned it off. I don't know how you've managed. That trainer changes colour. That was the little bit of flourish I had in my presentation. You removed it. Every one of these examples is an attempt to show this increasing desire to becoming much more personal. And it's this attempt to find the mission and to define the need and refine the detail of that by responding with ultimately configurable and personable and customizable products. And it's also an attempt to make only the things that are more likely to sell, not make everything in every colorway and every size with this blind hope that they may. We're starting to try and find the use of technology in our ability to offer much more configuration, much more customization, much more personalization. This is a set of jumpers that were chosen by, designed by, made in store for, I think this is I don't know the brand, I'm sorry, but they've got an in-store manufacturing process. You can walk in, digital experience, you can take a style, you can take a color, you can take a pattern, you add it together, the machine makes the jumper, you buy the jumper, you wear the jumper out that night, and you've fulfilled the mission without having effectively fired up a whole manufacturing process in China, where you're going to make every single permutation of that product. Feels like a good thing to do. Similarly, with Nike, you can configure those things. I did this, and this is a bad example. My son, when he played football, wanted a pair of Nike boots, and those Nike boots had to have his name on. And so Charlie got his Nike boots. They had a name on, and then I realised that that was just a pair of Nike boots that somebody had to take out of stock and then print his name on. And then because they'd taken it out of the main flow, it had to come custom carrier service to me. So I'm thinking bad stuff. This was a stock pair of boots that had to then step aside from the efficient flow of goods into a custom flow of goods, and it became much more expensive. They definitely lost money. All right, there's no way I could imagine them making more money as a result of doing that. But the concept of customization is a good thing. BMW are doing it with Mini. You can pre-configure your car digitally so that they don't make too many cars with white roofs, black mirrors, and Union Jack imprinted rear light cluster lenses. Has anybody seen this before? This is quite bonkers, right? Imagine for a minute one way of reducing fashion waste. How about we don't actually wear clothes? We don't need to wear clothes because we're interacting solely through social channels, and our desire is to be seen and to be liked. I don't get this concept, but apparently young people do. This is a brand called Carling, not the beer brand. These are real people dressed in unreal fashion. None of what you see on them is actual, it's virtual, and it costs real money. This is the equivalent of, who's got kids that play on Fortnite? Have you ever wondered why they spend money on things called skins? Have you ever questioned why they're really spending your money on skins? Does anybody know what we're talking about? Only 3 hands went up, and we're all bald blokes with beards. There's a reality to this. Virtualizing product, digitizing product, and selling virtual digital product for real money is a thing. We've taught people through the gaming experiences to do this. Kids spend V-Bucks, all right? They spend V-Bucks buying skins on Fortnite. Skins are just virtual. Skins are just kids' versions of this. And they've now grown up and they're doing it for real. And they're buying virtual fashion, digital assets that are owned by this brand, and they charge more if it's a one-off. So they do limited editions and one-offs, and they're more expensive if only you can buy it. Think about that. Anyway, I move on, because we're all now thinking about how we use this technology to create much more of an immersive, engaging experience. And there's a couple of examples here. I just want to come to this one. This is a business that the conflict of interest declaration here. I'm a founding investor and director at Soup. This was a business called ProDirect. They've been around for a long while. They were a sportswear retailer. They opened a store in Carnaby Street. It's no longer there, unfortunately. But it was a showcase space, entirely configurable. In a turnaround of around 24 hours, they were able to take a Nike launch, build a digital experience in their store, including a complete change of the shop fit, because they use magnetic tiles on the walls. So they blow big digital images onto the walls on magnetic tiles. They changed the digital assets. You could come and stand, put your trainer on. You were pretty much likely to be the first wave, because it was a marketing event. It wasn't a selling event. They're no longer there, but some of the characteristics of that have now been taken forward into this one, a fully virtual showroom. Go and immerse yourself in a brand without going anywhere. The hybrid is this thing. So Souk is we've got 12, I think, sites around the UK now. We did a collaboration with TikTok Shop. TikTok came and live streamed from a digitally enabled pop-up store. So we're now able to bring people into the physical environment to experience products, but we don't want to leave out our online audience. So we live stream the experience to our online audience. Our online audience can now participate in a real world event. This generates queues and queues of people around the block. This bringing together digital and physical and using technology to drive those experiences. It's back to that third slide I put up about this shifting channel preference. Actually, you can start to build connectivity between your channels in new ways if you're using this thinking and these technologies. Because we've become convinced as retailers that choice and convenience are what drives commercial outcomes for us. The trouble is, too much choice And too much convenience gives rise to very, very severe cost pressures in your business. And if you're prepared to pursue choice and convenience, it cannot be at all costs. Right? Existing is not good enough in business. You do need to be able to survive and to thrive. And so addressing through some of the technologies that allow you to optimize in this space between what you've bought, how you move it, and how you create the operating relationship with your customers is essential. And so there are businesses like Harper that will say, well, they've cracked that. They've cracked that because they're a rentals business. They'll show you what's available. They'll essentially do a curated selection for you, and then they'll take back what you don't want. But they do so with a growing intelligence, and they're building an intelligence base that allows them to be much more close to customer mission and need than ever before. And then they're applying some logic, some pure mathematical logic, and using technology to optimize in that space. But I come back to the people. The people in retail and hospitality are what really make it hum. The industry is all about connections. It's all about creating that experience, that moment where your mission is met by somebody that knows why you're here and what you're trying to achieve and is able to help you through the process efficiently and effectively to an outcome that generates for you a solution and for them some margin. We're in business to make money, not lose it, and yet we sometimes overlook the fact that one of our big three costs is where the magic happens. If we keep pulling people out of store and replacing them with self-checkout, fine, but how do customers feel? Customers gain huge advantage by having a relationship with people, but do we really care enough about how they're feeling? And increasingly, we are. I'm doing some work with the Retail Trust at the minute. If you don't know the Retail Trust, as an ambassador, I'm duty-bound to tell you, you must know the Retail Trust, you must sign up, and you must go and know them because they're doing great work. They're trying to create a national scale data set of happiness in the retail industry. They're trying to do that because we're trying to show unequivocally that there is a direct, not correlation, but causation between the happiness of your people and the performance of your business. We're trying to do that because it's worth doing. If you've got happy people serving customers, your customers are going to be happier. Right? If you've got miserable people trying to leave the industry because it's so hard, because you're not investing in them, then you're not going to have happy customers. The point up here is that there are ways now that technology is being used to try and create an environment in which people can grow to their full potential. I was talking earlier with Kevin about retail. It's a seed bed industry. We plant people in this industry on a Saturday job, and then 20 years later, they emerge as the CEO of a retail organization. They do that because they've experienced what it's like to serve people, to be structured, to follow process, to understand the commerciality of what they do. If you could capture the essence of everybody in the industry and raise them up through their development journey by educating, allowing them to experience, and then creating value through the potential that they have as people, what a better thing could you do with technology? And there are technologies emerging that allow you to do that. Allow the creation of conditions to help people grow through micro-learning, through nudging and task allocation, and through community inside organizations as big as Sainsbury's, for example. 160,000 colleagues, 90-odd thousand of them working in shops. How they ever get to know each other is beyond me. But now technologies can be used to connect them together into positive communities that are striving to improve a particular thing because they have an interest or a skill or experience. And so, again, focus on the three big ones: stock, labour and space, and you will liberate greater value. This one is really interesting for me. Really interesting. I encourage you to have a look closely at it. Coming a bit further back, we've only got a few minutes before lunch, but which is why I put the food on the screen now. All right. This is really me in a plea to the industry that holds both the problem and the solution in our hands. We must find ways of being more efficient in the use of resources. We must find ways of reducing waste. Some of that relates to where we make stuff, where we stock stuff and hold stuff, and how we move it around. And two examples here, we're just simply of vertical farming. In-store growing product, well, you don't need to grow it in a field. If you can grow it in a shop, well, that's clever. How you get to a scale operation, challenging, but not so challenging if you stick it in a vacant warehouse that's been left idle because the pandemic convinced us that all of our business was moving online, and then it stopped moving online and settled back. But we built warehouses to accommodate that growth, and now they're empty. Vertical farms are popping up all over the UK to try and put production closer to consumption. Simple formula. Simple formula. Build things, make things, create things closer to where your customers are, and you can reduce an awful lot of wasted energy, wasted cost. And so, again, the technologies are there, and they're starting to emerge as patterns in our industries where, and for those of you working in and around hospitality, this makes ultimate sense. Connect it also back into the ethical performance of our industry to look after people in our local communities and to create jobs and foster the economy in an indirect way. Sorry. And you've got a virtuous circle. We all know about the role of technology and automation, but it's increasingly there for us. And if you're trying to move stuff around cost efficiently and effectively, you cannot overlook the automation technologies that are in place and already available. And they compress one important thing. They take space out. You can do more with less if you use these technologies. It's as simple as that. You don't need vast, empty, air hanger size warehouses with lots of racking. If you can automate the operation, you can get more from less. You can also be much more precise in what you know is happening, because all of these technologies give you the opportunity to suck the exhaust from them and generate insight. Yeah? The transactional flow is important, but much more important is your ability to access what's happening and take a view about the opportunity to improve. So a lot of this is about self-improving systems, systems of insight alongside systems of transaction. And then finally, I have a view that blockchain, and I keep saying it, blockchain has a role to play in our industry. We're starting to see an increasing number of organizations using it, not by talking about it, but just by demonstrating that in an industry that is inherently collaborative, upstream into our supplier base and downstream with our customers, what better way of collaborating than creating one version of the truth, holding it on a distributed system, okay, called a blockchain, and then sharing it. And I'll give you the examples. Here's a couple of fashion examples that support the front-end relationship with a customer. But these are some examples out the back. Let me talk you through in the few minutes I've got. There's a flow here. Creative oranges. Guess what happens when you take an orange off a tree? It dies. It stops living. from that point forward, I'm sorry I'm doing that because I can't say, it's deteriorating to the point where it becomes rotten and unsaleable. We care then what's happening to that orange. The minute it's off the tree, we care because it's got value, and that value is deteriorating as it does. You need to keep it as long as you can in full saleable form before you might choose to mark it down, and then you might choose to waste it. Okay, so it's got value that's instantly deteriorating the minute it's off the tree. Well, how do you know how fast it's deteriorating? Well, you might care where it is. So orange is quite susceptible to changes and fluctuations in temperature, and changes and fluctuations in temperature over periods of time either accelerate or decelerate its deterioration. So you might want to know. You might want to know where it is in your supply chain. You might want to know how long it's been there. You might want to be able to connect that to your stock and merchandising systems. You might want to then connect it to the pricing of that orange so that you can maximize its value as it moves through your supply chain. All the way through, I want to talk about this. In order to grow that orange, you need to plant an orange tree. You plant an orange tree, a bit of soil, and you probably want to stimulate it a bit to get some guaranteed yields from the orange tree. You probably want to standardize it by putting some fertilizer around it from time to time. You might want to take action to improve the yield of that tree. This is a flyover analysis by a drone of the concentration of fertilizer, in this case, not in an orange grove, sorry, this is poetic license. This is a wheat field. And what you're seeing is an analysis of the colour of the leaves of the wheat, and there's an interpretation of those that is able to translate into how much fertilisation is required in the field. Normally, one of those tractors with the big boom arms would have driven up and down in that field, dispensing fertiliser at a uniform rate. Now, with this analysis, it doesn't need to. It saves the cost of fertilisation, things where the soil doesn't need it, and it stops over-fertilisation and leaves the soil intact for longer. So instead of leaving fields fallow to help them regenerate, the reason we do that is to help them regenerate because we've over-fertilised. This allows you to spend less on fertiliser and improve the quality of the soil. So imagine connecting these things back through, where all of the information that relates to that orange is recorded for you on a blockchain that allows the fertilisation rates to be known, that allows the value and the traceability and the authenticity of that orange to be known by anybody who has an interest in it, any person or any system. And here's an example of computer vision being used in a completely different context, which is to attest to the authenticity of whiskey. I point that little device, it's a very cheap mobile phone with a little cheap camera adaptation that allows a bit of artificial intelligence technology to analyse the visual spectrum of that particular product. It simply records it. When you point it at a bottle of whiskey that you think is it, and it doesn't share the same visual signature, it's not it. Johnnie Walker whiskey is sold as fake all over the world. It's a very successful brand. It's so successful that people copy it and try to pass off cheaper whiskey as it, killing that as a practice. These kind of technologies can be used, but the combination of these things are really there. This is nothing I'm showing you, it doesn't exist, by the way. But these technologies, when combined together, will help us solve some of the bigger problems that I opened with. We hold the problem and the solution in our hands. we can address the challenges of shifting customer behaviour across channels, and we can face into the economic place that we play in the macroeconomic landscape, and also address the economic challenges that are prevailing in our business. All of these technologies are available. It's just about selecting and connecting them. And that's the role, no doubt, that Retail Assist would like to play for all of its customers. But where are you going to focus? Is it going to make a difference to you, to your customers, your businesses? You go and take time to look at these smart connected technologies. And I'll leave you with that question.